Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to Season 5 and episode number 821 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Oh, Canada! Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Tuesday, not January. See, I'm already in next year. I'm already anxious to get 2025 over because the new year, I hope, will have a whole bunch of new good stuff for us. A bright, fresh new year with fresh promise and no mistakes in it yet, as Anne Shirley would say. But today, recording day, is December 30th, 2025. 2 more days to wrap up the year. And it is a gorgeous, sunny day here at the Toronto Beaver Lodge. As you can tell, we have moved again. Different camera, different lighting. Not exceptionally good lighting, unfortunately, kids and cubs. Hey, but beggar beavers can't be choosers, right? Everything's working. So, and we got the show started on the first shot. So I will take the W today. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, they, Mr. Beaver. And not with me, as usual, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Although I did get a little communication from him this morning. So we've been in touch. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. See Kit Argos Acres say, still in the T dot. Yeah, apparently I'm doing a tour. Started in Kingston, then went to Thornhill, now we're in Toronto proper, and perhaps on New Year's Day, or the day after, in Barrie. So it's the Eager Beaver Tour, Christmas tour. Da, 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 da. Kids and cubs, how is your mental health doing today? I have to say that mine is doing much better today than it was yesterday. Oh boy. And for those who are wondering, excuse me while I dip out of the camera for a second. And here we go. I have taken the suggestion of putting the beaver moistener on the floor, even though somebody told me yesterday that Murphy's Law will mean that I'll probably kick it. But at least if I kick it, I won't spill it all over the keyboard. And I am banking on the fact that, since I am French and fabulous and talk with my hands a lot, that maybe I at least don't talk with my feet. So I'm going out on a limb here. But kids and cubs, Kit Saucy asked me, and yes, I solemnly swear to keep my arms and feet inside the ride at all times today. Oh my God. Yesterday, was a frustrating day. So much happened before noon. Let's put it that way. And then that sort of feeling carried on through the day, unfortunately, for a little bit, and I got really frustrated at some point in the mid afternoon. I had a mini meltdown, got a little bit emotional. Mm-hmm. Um, Not my best moment, but I didn't take any swings at anybody else. It was mostly some self-flagellation. Uh, so yeah, I was a little hard on myself yesterday. Um, I followed some advice from the kids. We were able to take the laptop apart and take out the screws and stuff like that, and try to let it dry and get the water out before things started to corrode. Yesterday I was able to get the computer to turn back on again, but I couldn't get the keys to function. When I type my password to get out of the screensaver, the first character of the password when I pressed the keyboard, when I clicked on the keyboard, would enter 2 characters. So I was able to get it to turn on, but I wasn't able to actually get into my computer. So we have it. Fortunately, it folds up, so we got it on like a sort of TP style on the table, and exposing it to air. We tried putting a little hair dryer on it, just nice and light, to try dry stuff. So hopefully, with ambient air and all that kind of stuff, it will dry, and I will be able to access it to use it again. And if not to use again, well, at least to be able to at least retrieve the information off it and put it somewhere else, so I don't lose all of that. So keep your paws crossed for me on that one, and hopefully I won't have to buy a whole new laptop. I really hope I don't have to buy a new laptop. It's Let's put it this way: it's not that it's so much a financial issue, although it is. It would be a financial hit. It's just that we just shelled out money for a vacation, so there is a cash flow issue, if not an overall financial issue all of a sudden. Because right after you drop uh, several Bordens on a trip, the last thing you need is a few days later another expense, unexpected, that will cost you another few Bordens. I would rather spend those Bordens on vacation, maybe some lovely drinks in a coconut shell or something like that, rather than on the laptop because I have one. Uh, so again, paws crossed that everything dries out and that I can use it again. But if not, well, I guess I take a deep breath and say it's only money, and commit maybe to a little less chocolate over the next few months. So, fortunately, at least at the time I'll be in Mexico, I won't lose my base. But as you know, I need to maintain my levels. Speaking of which, I think it is time to make sure that my levels are okay with another sampling of a yummy turtle. I actually, believe it or not, kids or cubs, I have been a very good beaver. That's the same bag of turtles that I was using the other day. This is probably the longest I have ever made a bag of turtles last. So here we go. I deserve this today because yesterday was a day. Nom, 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 nom. The day did get better, however. Kids and cubs. We moved here to downtown, and my beaver sweetie and I went out to do dinner last night. We went out for some all-you-can-eat sushi. We also bought ourselves some gluten-free pancake mix because when you have a day like I had yesterday, you deserve pancakes. It's the law here at the Beaver Lodge. Tough day? Okay, you get through it? Okay, you get rewarded with pancakes. I was going to say I don't make the rules, but I do make the rules. So that's because pancakes make everything better. They just do. I don't know why, but they just do. Pancakes make me happy. So there you go. So we had a lovely dinner, and then we came home, and we watched. I don't watch a lot of TV in terms of like dramas or comedies or whatnot. I watch some live sports, tennis, and curling, more precisely. They're my favorite ones, but I watch live sports and sometimes watch a documentary or some information stuff. But usually even documentaries and information stuff, I'm watching that on my computer or my phone. So I don't watch a lot of TV. There's a lot of things I missed. I missed Sopranos. I missed Dexter. I missed Game of Thrones. I missed all of that. But we tuned into episode 1 of that new TV show that everybody's talking about, Heated Rivalry, because hockey and gay stuff, and I'm Canadian and fabulous, so it's almost a civic duty. I actually enjoyed the first episode. I didn't find many of the steamy sex scenes particularly realistic. Just saying, I stopped being a practicing homosexual quite a while ago, and I think I've got it down by now. So, yeah. So, as an expert homosexual, but hey, the fact that everybody's jumping on board with this and has no problem with it, because for those of us who are part of the culture or allies or whatnot, there was the whole Queer as Folk series, which could have gotten people used to that for people who like that, because there was a lot of definitely steamy sex scenes in that series. But if you're not, and steamy sex scenes on regular TV between two guys is something that can be new for a lot of people. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people watching the series because they like the hockey part, for whom images like that might be a little more new. So the fact that the series is being so well received, and that the two main stars are just being so accepted and celebrated for their performances and their roles, is kind of an interesting twist. I actually haven't heard that much hate about the series, which you would have expected, given the times and where everybody wants to be outraged about everything. But I liked it, and I am definitely going to tune in. I'm definitely going to watch the first season and see how it ends, and then decide if I'm going to keep on watching it. But I will give the rest of the first season a chance. And by the way, the guy that plays um, the Russian rival, if anybody has his workout routine for his glutes, I would love it. I'd like someone to share it for me, because, oh man, I'm sorry, but I might be getting a little thirsty, but those are some very, 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 there's some beautiful junk in that trunk. That's all I will say. Woo-wee. Papa Beaver, get a little warm. But you know what? It is a pretty good yarn, and in the first episode, I'm seeing where certain story arcs could potentially go, and yeah, there's a lot of opportunity for what to put it, um, for some very interesting plot lines and character development. So I can't wait to see what they do with it. Things are set up for this to be a nice, good ride. And I would suspect, because I think there's only 6 episodes in the first season. I'm not sure if there are more, but I know that they're at 6. I don't know if that was when they got to 6. That was at the end of the first season, and then they'll be doing more. But I can kind of see where the first season is sort of them getting to know each other, and there'll probably be like some big moment at the end of the first season. Either I know that they've got to episode 6, so if you know it, don't spoil it for me. like that. But I suspect that either somebody might be outed, or they may be discovered, or maybe they just boldly pronounce it, and then in season 2 you start seeing a little more of the realities, the consequence of that decision, and it might get a little darker. Uh, so yeah, there's a lot of potential there. So lots of brave choices in there. Lots of people taking risks with that series. So I hope there's a great success. And I was thinking this morning that there aren't any openly out male hockey players. There haven't been any, I think, ever. I do personally know of one former hockey player who did his entire career not publicly known. Met him after his career was over, just at a social event at a party. Um, so I know that there have been at least one, but nobody's ever came out. And then I was comparing it uh, to women, because we just had the inaugural season of the PWHL, right? And on the show, well, we read this great human interest story piece that was written by Devin Heroux about Marie-Philippe Poulet, and I wish I could remember her wife's name off the top of my head, because they both play on the same team. They're both PWHL stars, playing for Montreal Victoire. And then I was thinking more, and I'm thinking out. So we've had openly out female tennis players, golf players, for the longest time. There's Piper Gillies, fan, world championship medalist, ice dancer, has been openly out for some time. There are like in the first season of the PWHL, we have openly out female players, and nobody bats an eyelash, but the men still won't come out. I think one of the only sport that I know of that I can think of off the top of my head, I'm sure there are more, where there's an openly out, or where there are openly out male players, is curling. But I don't, which is why I was surprised that Curling Canada didn't follow and of course male figure skating. Um, but um, but yeah, which was why I was surprised that Curling Canada didn't follow Skate Canada's example, uh, when they said that they weren't going to have their high profile events in Alberta anymore until such time as that law is repealed. So yeah, it just yeah, this is uh, it's a big step to get that type of representation. Number one, just first of all, gay representation that way, where we're having full lives. We're not gay and asexual, for example, as was the case pretty much with that Will and Grace. We knew that he had a boyfriend at some point, but for the longest time he didn't have one. Then he finally did get one, but there wasn't that much in terms of public displays of affection and that type of stuff. It was still relatively tame. So to see it full on like that type of reputation, but also the representation that I mean, the series is based on the premise that the number 1 and number 2 draft picks in the first year both just happen to be either gay or at least curious or bi or something. So the representation of gay men being very, very, very serious athletes in a sport that, some people would associate with, more macho, a more macho ethos. Uh, and that not only are we playing, but we're damn good as well. So it's a bit of a mind play there that, at least for me, is very, very positive. So yeah, I'm absolutely, absolutely intending to, to check out the rest of the series, and yeah. So yeah, I am very, very excited. So yeah, I'm glad I took a chance on it, and I can't wait to see how it ends out. because, like I said, for me to stop and actually say, okay, I'm going to dedicate some time to watching a TV series is very, very, very rare. So there you go, kids and cubs. Personal recommendation from the Beaver. If you haven't checked it out yet, you might actually enjoy it. So there. Okay, let's see. Kit Elaine, I'm so happy that I could finally make myself a coffee this morning. Indeed. Let's see what kids and cubs have to say. Wow, you have been chatting already. There we go. Okay, so, you know what? We haven't done a good morning. So I'm going to look into the magic monitor and see who's with us today. We have Kit Saucy, Kit Cassie with us. Cassie, yay! Who else? We have Kit Linda with us, Kit Argosy Acres. Just trying to get used to the new names. Kit Saucy is with us. Kit Nona Carole is with us as well. Kit Linda M is there with us. Good morning to all of you. Kit Bucky, yes, I'm going to see the lady of your heart. I see. Safe travels and have a wonderful time. There's never a bad time for love. We love love here at the Beaver Lodge. So go get yours, Kit Bucky. I hope you have a wonderful time. Who else do we have with us today? Kit Kat is with us. There we go. Also, I'm getting some good advice here that I'm going to have to check into later about laptops and stuff like that. Kit Plain Power is here. Yay! Hello. Yes, you made it for one. I had a bit of insomnia last night. I didn't actually get to sleep till about 4 a.m. So waking up at 6:30 to 7 was going to be a little rough. And given that we have New Year's Eve coming where I might be up late again, I figured taking a couple extra hours for self-care, sleep, might make things go a little more smoothly. Not only for the show, but for the day. Doing the show really tired is not great because I get a little scattered and it's difficult to focus and often end up tripping over my tongue when I'm reading, and that's not as interesting. So a little extra bit today in order to deliver a better show for you now. Let's see, who else do we have? We have Kit Dale singing the Turtle song. Wow, nice to see you. Thank you for joining us at the Beaver Lodge this morning. Keep going. Kit PNC Bio is here as well. Who do we have here? Wow, you guys are really chatting. That's lovely. I like it. I like it when you guys are very active in the chat. It makes me very happy. It also gives me a lot to read when I come back and check it out later, which I don't enjoy. But I don't. Sorry, I was going to say don't enjoy. I do not enjoy. I was trying not to do a double negative, but I started off the sentence the wrong way there. Who else do we have here in the chat with us this morning? I think I may have gotten everyone. If I have missed you, I am so sorry. Hopefully I will see you or your name pop up later and give you a little shout out. But if you are here, please know that I am very glad that you are. Kit Tabby G is here. Hello, good morning to you, because I like spending time with the damn family. It makes me very happy. All right, kids and cubs. Hopefully your mental health is doing well today as well. Let's get into it. I wanted to start with two stories I sort of mentioned in closing the show because, as you know, I spilled water on the laptop and I didn't have the articles, so I was giving you the best I could remember them from memory. But now that I have access to a different computer and actually have the story, I wanted to bring them up to make sure that I got you all the details from these stories and that I did them justice. I'm pretty sure, I was actually surprised with how much of them I remembered off the top of my head when I was mentioning them yesterday. So I like to have the stories up there. Sometimes it's a little bit of a crutch, I will admit. But I was surprised with how much I remembered, but I still wanted to make sure I got all the details correct. Just because, I was sort of relating at the best of my memory. So the first of those two stories was the one about the former Liberal Cabinet Minister Randy Boissonneault, who had to step down due to a scandal and stated that he would indeed clear his name so that, it wouldn't have been out there that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau had made a bad choice by elevating him to cabinet. Also, again, because of representation, an openly out cabinet member. Um, you don't want some of the first ones to be a bad experience for someone to turn around and say, well, we did it once and it didn't work out, so we're not going to do that again, right? So it was very important. I would assume that he'd take the steps to clear his name. But according to Stephen Sandor of the Edmonton Journal, Randy Boissonneault is clear 2024 was the worst year of his life. A parliamentary committee was investigating claims he had kept an interest in a medical supply company he co-founded, flouting conflict of interest rules. His former business partner had sent text messages to prospective clients that Randy was involved in the company while he was a Liberal cabinet minister and MP for Edmonton Centre. The partner, Stephen Anderson, also claimed that Boissonneault had indigenous lineage. Eventually, Boissonneault stepped away from his cabinet post and later made the decision not to run for re-election in 2025. Quote, "It was the worst year of my life, and I've had some pretty bad years," said Boissonneault. "I spent until my late 20s deeply in the closet, but when I think about the pain of coming out to what I experienced over this last year, they don't compare. That's because reputation and honor matter." Boissonneault is now on a mission to clear his name. He sued his former business partner, claiming Anderson had fabricated stories about the then Liberal cabinet minister. Anderson, who had co-owned medical supply company Global Health Imports with Boissonneault, never filed a statement of defense. So Boissonneault's legal team filed for a default judgment against Anderson, and it was granted by Justice George R. Fraser. The order awarded Boissonneault nearly $450,000 in damages and legal costs. Wow. The order requires that Anderson sign a statement that he fabricated stories about Boissonneault being involved in Global Health Imports after he was elected to Parliament in 2021. As well, the order states that Anderson can never tell tales about Boissonneault again. Quote, "The defendant is hereby permanently enjoined from making, publishing, disseminating, or broadcasting any false statements about the plaintiff or using any of the plaintiff's names in any kind of correspondence with third parties except for legal and financial advisors, when required, on the express condition that said advisors maintain the confidentiality thereof, or where compelled by law," the order states. The only issue? Anderson's whereabouts are a mystery. Oh yes, the plot thickens. Boissonneault's lawyers are searching for Anderson so he can sign the paperwork that's so important to the rehabilitation of their client's reputation. But the former cabinet minister is relieved that the default ruling now gives him a platform from which to proclaim that he never broke parliamentary rules. Quote, "The court case is clear. The court case is important because it sets the record straight. I left cabinet to have the air cleared, and now the case speaks for itself. Now it's an opportunity for me to move on and keep doing what I've always done, which is to serve this community. I'm a builder, and I like serving this community. This has been my home since I was 18. So how did Boissonneault and Anderson become so entwined? They casually knew each other, but got reacquainted when they sat together on a flight from Montreal right before the COVID pandemic forced mass lockdowns. Boissonneault lost his Edmonton Centre seat in October of 2019 and was a free agent. Later, he and Anderson formed Global Health Imports Corporation, a business that dealt in medical supply. And see, this is why I wanted to make sure I had the article, because I had forgotten the part where they casually knew each other from before and had met on a plane. I just thought that they had reconnected online or met online the way that Mr. Grizzly and I had. Boissonneault said because of social distancing, he and Anderson worked from separate offices and had very little personal interaction. But things changed when Boissonneault won his seat back in September 2021 during the federal election. Then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau named him to cabinet. The court documents showed that he resigned from his directorship as required by conflicts of interest rules for parliamentarians. But he double-checked in April of 2022 and found out that Anderson had not taken Boissonneault's name off either federal or provincial registries, so he instructed his lawyer to do so. Reports later surfaced that, as Anderson tried to solicit American clients for Global Health Imports, he repeatedly texted them assurances that Randy was still a decision-maker in the company. Anderson also told clients that Global Health Imports was an Indigenous-owned enterprise. So here's the thing here. Not only did Boissonneault resign his directorship like he was supposed to, he even then made the effort to go and check, to double-check, found out it hadn't been done, and instructed his lawyers to ensure it was done. And on the other side of the ledger, you had conservatives in committee dragging his name through the mud, gleefully doing so, character assassinating him every single nanosecond they had. They didn't care about the truth. He was liberal, he was gay, and so they destroyed him. They destroyed him. Everything we hear about the Conservative Party, how they treat their own caucus members, that they're surveyed, that they do opposition research on their own caucus members in order to better keep them in line, and that if they threaten to leave, like cross the floor or whatnot, we will end you, we will ruin you, politically speaking, hopefully, is what they mean when they say we will end you. Well, they did that to Randy Boissonneault. The truth was out there. He was telling the truth, but no, they would not believe him. They went out of their way to destroy this man's reputation. I'm guessing that in committee and whatnot, all the people who did that to him are protected by parliamentary privilege. But if that were not the case, if I were Randy Boissonneault, there would be lots of lawsuits. Lots of lawsuits out there to all of them. But he did all that. He took all of those steps, and nobody gave him credit for it at the time. This led to an investigation by a parliamentary committee, and the Conservatives moved to have Anderson held in contempt of Parliament because he didn't provide accurate records of his text discussions that included mentions of Randy. So Anderson is not even cooperating. And still, rather than turn the focus on Anderson, they still destroyed Boissonneault. Anderson later testified that the Randy in question was not Boissonneault, but another person. He later blamed the Randy who mentions on his phone's autocorrect function. It was a story that was not well received by the committee. In Ottawa, St. Albert Conservative MP Michael Cooper said he simply did not believe Anderson's excuse. The more Anderson changed his story, the greater suspicions about Boissonneault. Why? Well, shouldn't it have been more logically that the more Anderson changed his story, the greater the credibility of Boissonneault should have been? Because Boissonneault was showing up. He was going to the committees. He didn't need to be summoned many, many times. There was no discussions about having Boissonneault held in contempt. And Boissonneault saying, like this guy is doing a whole bunch of weird, shady stuff. And then the committee is dealing with the guy, and the guy is doing a whole bunch of shady stuff. And none of the Conservatives on the committee said, Boissonneault tells us he's doing shady stuff. We're dealing with him. He's doing shady stuff. Maybe Boissonneault's telling the truth. Oh, no. They decided to say, oh, well, that guy's shady, so Boissonneault was in business with him, so Boissonneault absolutely must be shady. Right? This is all the colors of the lenses people choose to look through. Do you take your rose-colored glasses and excuse things away? Or do you take your dark-colored glasses and try to interpret every single detail and new bit of information through the darkest lens possible? Well, we know which ones the Conservatives pick, right? They do it all the time. It's always the darkest lens possible, particularly if it's a liberal or a progressive. Right? Absolutely no chance whatsoever that there's a decent liberal or an honest liberal or progressive out there if you're a Conservative Party of Canada MP. Reveals a lot about the organization and the people in it, I would say. Quote, "It doesn't take a rocket science," said Cooper in the committee chambers. "It's simply a matter of common sense to realize that the reason that Randy Boissonneault can't track down the other Randy is because there is no other Randy. It is the Minister of Employment. Unless this mysteriously Randy suddenly shows up, we have a minister who contravened the Conflict of Interest Act, and we have a minister who's mired in a business transaction that is facing serious allegations of fraud." Again, we have Michael Cooper said as a statement of fact in committee, we have a minister who contravened the Conflict of Interest Act. Well, there was absolutely no evidence of that, no conclusion of that. But Michael Cooper had already decided that he was judge, jury, and executioner, that Boissonneault was guilty, and was using his platform, his position of privilege as a committee member with parliamentary immunity to claim for a fact that Randy Boissonneault contravened the Conflict of Interest Act, when he had not, and there was no proof that he had. That's a Conservative for you. Well, this Conservative MP. Further muddying the waters were lawsuits from American clients claiming that Global Health Imports took their money but never fulfilled their orders. The Gowie Group alleged that an order was never fulfilled after a US $500,000 deposit was sent to GHI. For a medical claimed that a US $250,000 order was never satisfied. Boissonneault stepped down from cabinet. He said he promised Trudeau that he would clear his name. The suit against Anderson was launched. But as Liberals had prepped for the spring 25 election, Boissonneault's case against Anderson had yet to be resolved. He said he decided to pull the plug on his Edmonton Centre re-election campaign. Quote, "You never want to be the pain in the campaign," said Boissonneault. The Liberals moved longtime party loyalist Eleanor Olszewski from Edmonton Strathcona to Edmonton Centre, and she held the seat for her party. She's now Alberta's lone minister in Prime Minister Mark Carney's cabinet. Fast forward to today, despite the court ruling that established Anderson made false representations, the former cabinet minister said he's learned a hard lesson about trusting too easily. Quote, "There is no relationship left between us whatsoever," said Boissonneault, "and the association with him cost me my political career. I learned a heavy lesson for not doing enough due diligence on this guy, and I will have to learn that lesson, and I will never have to learn that lesson again." Boissonneault was out in public this week as he attended the opening of Boyle Street Community Services' new headquarters, the King Thunderbird Centre. He was praised for his part in bringing $21 million of federal funding to the project. He also points to the nearly $11 million in federal funding for CKUA as another high point in his career. But he knows, despite the court victory, there will be those who will never believe him. There will be those who will always see him as a dirty politician. Quote, "I hope we're not in a post-truth world now," said Boissonneault. "But look, judge me by my acts, and the record is very clear. I think you can divide people into thirds. There's people who will never be on your side. There's people who will always be on your side. And then there's the people in the middle. What I think the court case does is help communicate to the people in the middle what happened so they can understand. That's why I withdrew, so I could communicate clearly to the people in the middle to say, the guy who was portrayed, that's not me. I'm not that guy." So there you have it, kids and cubs. Mr. Boissonneault. Hearing his name, the other guy, so did not have a case that he didn't even do whatever was the minimum needed to fulfill the obligations of a court case and got a judgment against him. That's pretty clear cut. So yeah, hopefully Mr. Boissonneault can, with every subsequent year, that 2024 terrible year will be further in the rearview mirror, and he can go on being doing the good works that he's been doing, because he's right. When it becomes about reputation and honor, it's everything. It was really interesting, actually. There's, sometimes there's themes that come up, and there's other things in your life. I was watching something on YouTube yesterday, I think it was, about Vanessa Williams, if you remember, 1984 Miss America, the first Black Miss America, and then near the end of her reign, there were pictures that she had taken with a photographer earlier in her career, where somebody asked her if she wanted to do some nudes, just for some artistic nudes for stuff, and that they would never be published and all that kind of stuff. And she agreed. She was young, made a bad decision, and then she became Miss America. And the guy who had the pictures now wanted to try and sell them to make money off them. He tried to sell them to Playboy. I didn't know that. Playboy refused because there was no consent of the person being that appeared in the photos. But Penthouse had no problem publishing them. Yeah, and then the board of Miss America gave her a couple of days to decide whether or not she was going to step down, or whether or not they would remove the crown for her. And she stepped down very gracefully. And never had a bad thing to say, never basically kept their name out of her mouth for the longest time. And about 10 years ago, and I had no idea that this had happened until yesterday, I think it was like 32 years after it happened, the Miss America pageant had actually called her and asked her to be the head judge for the pageant that year. And then they brought her on stage, and they had publicly apologized to her and thanked her for all those years of grace. And the way that she had handled the class and the grace. And she went on to be the most successful Miss America ever with the career that she has had. And while they didn't, quote unquote, um, you know, basically say, because when she stepped down, there was another person that became Miss America to fill the end of the reign. They didn't want to necessarily erase her, but they made it very clear on stage that as far as they were concerned now, of course, 32 years later, nobody that was in the organization at the time that they ran around town was there anymore. But they apologized for that, and they said that as far as they were concerned, she will always be Miss America 1984. Randy Boissonneault had about a year or something. Vanessa Williams was 32 years. That was that she waited to get that public acknowledgement, and again, she accepted that with total class. So, you know what? I'm a big believer in playing the long game, especially if you're an honorable person. But playing the long game is sometimes not easy. And sometimes the game is really, really long. But in the case of Vanessa Williams, living well and having a successful life ended up being the best revenge. Hopefully, it will be the same for Mr. Boissonneault. Because he's really still, well, I think he's younger than I am. So he's got a lot of life ahead of him to do a lot of good works. And who knows? Maybe that's the end of politics for him. Maybe he will try again at some point. But yeah, honor and reputation are a really big thing. They matter. The second story I had mentioned yesterday was the one about the Debates Commission. And I just wanted to be sure that I'd gotten you the proper information on that too again, because I was just doing it from memory. And this is according to Darren Major of CBC News. The head of Canada's Leaders Debate Commission says the independent body should stop organizing post-debate news conferences and will make changes to how it decides what leaders to invite after this spring's leadership debate was surrounded by controversy. Michel Cormier, the Commission's executive director, who really should not be anymore, appeared before a committee of MPs on Thursday to highlight recommendations from its recent report on the 2025 federal leadership debates. The Commission organized 2 leadership debates during the April federal election campaign. While Cormier said the debates themselves ran smoothly, he acknowledged a, quote, perfect storm of issues that created controversy around the events. Quote, I admit freely that there were shortcomings, and now our desire is to fix those problems, Cormier told the committee. Fix those problems by just saying, we're not going to be doing this anymore. That's not fixing the problem. That seems to be avoiding the problem. But hey, maybe that's just me. The Commission abruptly cancelled a news conference that was scheduled to take place after the English language debate, where leaders were meant to take turns answering questions from reporters. The cancellation happened after Rebel News and other right-wing media outlets dominated the question and answer sessions following the French debate the night before. Then, prior to the English debate, there were a number of tense interactions in the media room, including a shouting match between a Hales Time reporter, Stuart Benson, not mentioned in the story, and a Rebel News personality, Ezra Levant, also not mentioned in the article. At least that I remember was Ezra Levant. Or Ezra Levant at some point has stuck his nose in it. If it wasn't originally with him, it was with someone else. The Commission called in extra RCMP security, but ultimately cancelled the question and answer period over concerns about the environment in the media room. Quote, we had more than 200 journalists. I think part of what happened in terms of tension in the room was also explained by the fact that everything was centered in one single space, Cormier told the MPs. So he's basically saying, here, that is a bureaucratic gobbledygook for saying that the first time we invite Rebel News in, the shit hit the fan. We didn't know that we needed to put them in a separate pen because they have no social skills whatsoever and are unable to play nice with anyone. That's basically what he's saying here. Everything was centered in one single space. Oh, yes, that's true. That we needed to create a space for the right-wing media outlets. And then all the reputable media outlets, whether right or left, can be in the other room. Because these other media outlets can't turn it off for 2 seconds and just be decent human beings. That's basically what he's saying. The Commission faced questions in the past for accrediting some media outlets. During the 2019 and 2021 elections, Rebel News was part of a legal challenge that ultimately allowed it to obtain accreditation to cover the debates. Yeah, but you know what? One person, not 27. Maybe. The Commission decided not to take up another court challenge over accreditation this spring, but Comey admitted in an interview prior to the English debate that he, quote, wasn't aware Rebel News Network had registered with Elections Canada as a third-party advocacy group, and that should have made it such that they were not in that room. You got to pick one. You're a media or an advocacy group, but you're not both at the same time. So again, the Debate Commission was rather sloppy in doing its verification work. Comey said at the time that had he known, it might have changed his calculation on the accreditation decision. See, again, another wishy-washy. Had I known, it might have changed. Why might? Why not it would have? Like I said, this is a man that is not able to be firm. On Thursday, Comey told MP that the Commission would still be responsible for media accreditation for the debates. Why? Why? If you don't want to host the press conferences and the scrums and all that kind of stuff, why keep responsibility for the accreditation? See, none of this makes sense. This is all sloppy and messy. On Thursday, Comey told MPs that the Commission would still be responsible for media accreditation for the debates, but it would be up to party leaders to hold their own news scrums if they wish. There was also a bit of controversy in the lead-up to the debates over the initial inclusion of the Green Party, which is pushing the Commission to change how it determines which leaders to invite. Then Green Party co-leader Jonathan Pedno was dropped from both debates just hours before the first podcast, after the Commission said the party failed to meet participation requirements. Parties must meet 2 of the following criteria in order to be invited: having at least one sitting MP who's been elected as a member of that party. That was done. Having at least 4% national support in opinion polls at the time that they were approved. That may or may not have been the case. And endorsing candidates in at least 90% of all ridings 28 days before the election. That, at the time the Greens applied, was indeed the case. So they did meet at least 2 of the 3. I'm not sure about 3 of the 3. The Greens provided the Commission with a list of endorsed candidates early in the campaign, but more than 100 of those failed to finalize their nominations with Elections Canada. Comey said the Commission will now wait for the list of confirmed candidates from Elections Canada before determining who meets the criteria. Gee, really, you think? In the lead-up to the debates this past spring, Comey said there was concern that waiting for the Elections Canada list, which was finalized roughly a week before the debates, wouldn't leave enough time to organize the event. So here's the thing, again, and this is why Michel Comey's stuff doesn't make sense. Because they were afraid there wasn't enough time. So they say they accepted it. But then Elections Canada finalized the list roughly a week before the debates. And yet the Commission still waited till hours before the debate to make that decision. Why not make the decision when the list was finalized? None of this makes sense. Quote, after the Spence debate, we came to the conclusion that 1 week was actually enough, even if it makes it a bit tighter, he said Thursday. Gee, really, you think? So we think that the clean and easy solution is to use the Elections Canada list. That was always the solution. Why did you do anything else? Dum, 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 dum. Dum, 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 dum. Jeez. Comey used his opening statement to highlight some positives. Quote, when we talk about the success of the debates, in our view, it's what people saw on TV. In that regard, I think it was a big success, he said in French. Yeah, but nobody remembers that, Mr. Comey. What they remember is the shit show that followed. So yeah, pat yourself on the back for a job well done. Jeez. The executive director said more people had watched the 2025 debate than in previous election campaigns. He also said the costs incurred for running the debates had been reduced compared to previous elections. The commission was launched in 2019 to oversee the federal leadership debates. Yeah, Michel Comey, the fact that more people watched the debate isn't to your credit. It had to do with the fact that there was some compelling drama. Mark Carney sliding in out of nowhere to win the Liberal leadership, and then to be leading in the election, and the Pierre's spectacular plummet from the top. There was some genuine drama. That's what brought the eyeballs to the debate. It wasn't your good work, sir. And again, why do you still have this job? Why do you not have enough self-awareness to realize you're not the guy? Ugh. Some people. So there you go. We have both those two stories, the full details there, because there were certain things that I missed, certain things that I was not totally precise, and I wanted to be sure that you had the accurate information. And now you do. Okay, moving on. As you know, kids and cubs, on our show, we have been talking a lot about politics in British Columbia, because it's a bit of a hot mess back there with everything that's been happening with the BC Conservative Party, and then also the One BC Party. Actually, conservatism is pretty much a hot mess all throughout Canada and the United States at the moment, despite the fact that there are a lot of conservatives with power. They just can't seem to get their act together to provide good governance. They'd rather fight with each other. So, in the United States, of course, Donald Trump is, has the worst approval ratings out there in pretty much in history. There's more data that came out today that suggests that his approval ratings right now are worse than Joe Biden's when he left office. So that's not great. And then we're seeing, these special election results and all this type of stuff going in the United States. I mean, even in Tennessee, where the Republicans did win, the Democrat candidate was like only a single-digit spread, which Tennessee is always at least a double-digit spread by a lot. And that race was tight. We had the New York mayor, which went to a Muslim Democratic Socialist. In I think it is Miami, there's a new mayor there, the first Democrat mayor in almost like close to 30 years. Florida, which is very, very red. And there's, just a lot of Virginia, what happened in Virginia as well. And even certain judges' elections for judgeships that would determine the balance of certain courts and all that. Almost everything was going the Democrats' way. And what wasn't going the Democrats' way in terms of a win, the gap was so narrowed, in fact, that the Democrats in the midterms in Texas are going to be running a candidate for absolutely everything that is available in the state. Often in the United States, there are some parties that just don't field candidates. One of the two parties just doesn't field a candidate in a certain area because it's just not worth it to spend the money, because the Republicans win with 70% or something like that. So what's the point? No, they're running everywhere this time. They're going to force the Republicans to spend money absolutely everywhere to try and shore up their positions. And then the Republicans are doing all of that gerrymandering, which is starting to look like they might have ended up dummy-mandering themselves out of more seats than they will gain, particularly in Texas, because I guess they assumed that the swing and Latino vote that went for Trump, which surprised a lot of people, but the share of the Latino vote that went to Trump last time around would be theirs forever. And it turns out, the public polling is indicating that the Latinos who did vote for Trump the last time are already not impressed with him, and they're not getting his vote again. So they gerrymandered their districts to include more Latino voters because they thought that they had them in the bag, and that may now backfire on them. Oh, what a shame. So, but over here, right, we also have issues, right? The UCP, there are so many recall petitions against UCP MLAs, and there's definitely some infighting in those ranks with regard to the separatists versus non-separatists. And Danielle Smith keeps on bending backwards in half so much that I'm surprised she hasn't snapped her spine yet to try to accommodate the separatists while claiming that she's not one. Bullshit. Sorry. I don't know where that came from. So yeah, that's not going very well. Of course, and like I said, BC's a mess. In Quebec, the CAQ, also a conservative-leaning party, is a mess. François Legault has lost about 6 of his membres de l'Assemblée nationale over the past year, and most recently, Christian Dubé um, uh, decided to leave as well, sitting as an independent. Monsieur Dubé, if I'm remembering correctly, was a health minister, was negotiating the New Deal, the reform with the doctors that made the doctors in the province of Quebec very, very, very angry. And they were holding protests, and many were vowing to leave the province. I think about 345 or so, the last number I heard, had already left the province and accepted jobs elsewhere. So François Legault swooped in and renegotiated the deal with the doctors, basically gutting absolutely everything that Christian Dubé put into it. And so it's basically pretty much a total reversal. So Dubé turned around and said, well, screw that. Yes, and Legault had already lost an MNA prior to that because I think it was his Minister of Social Services when they brought in the action to do the reform. That person left and decided to sit as an independent, and then the reforms didn't go over well. And then when François Legault tried to attempt to correct the reforms, thus basically undercutting his minister, then the minister left. So he lost 2 ministers over this reform. And, public opinion polling is indicating that if an election were held today, the CAQ would go from a full majority to 0 seats. And François Legault, at the moment, seems to not be taking the hint that it's time. Mon oncle Frankie, il est l'heure d'aller se coucher. It's time to go to bed. Your political career is done. But he still thinks that there's something that could happen. Now, there's a little bit of an opening with what happened to the Quebec Liberals. So that's, maybe it creates an opportunity for him. But if it doesn't, it could just be such that his political capital is so burned that even an implosion among the Quebec Liberal Party won't be enough to re-elevate him to make it a battle between the PQ and him. He actually was on the record the other day saying something really weird, that he still believes that it's actually going to be a battle between the CAQ and the Liberals in this next provincial election, not the PQ. Now, the only thing which is a somewhat laughable statement, if not for the fact that Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, the leader of the Parti Québécois, shares a lot of personality traits with Pierre Poilievre and is equally off-putting and all of that kind of stuff. So maybe that happens for him. He's already started attacking the cultural communities in there, so he's not doing himself any favors or helping himself here. With regard to the Quebec Liberals, it seems that, as I'm mentioning, their leadership, the new leadership decision is going to come sometime in March, and the 2 candidates that finished second and third in the last leadership race, Marc Tanguay and Ken Blackburn, I think his name is, are not going to be running again. And Marc Tanguay specifically is now leading the party in the interim, so he definitely will not be running for the leadership. So I don't know who's going to come and lead that party. There's an opportunity for another Marc Carney type effect there with the Quebec Liberals, but again, there's a reputational thing with the way those things went down and all the history of the Charbonneau Commission, that it may be a cut that they are not able to get back up from. But it could happen for the CAQ if they find a way to push François Legault out and have somebody come in that can sort of revitalize the party very quickly in a manner similar to Marc Carney. However, the same sort of overall conditions are not there. Yes, there's still a Trump in the United States, but for provincial politics, the threat of Trump is maybe not as much of a motivating factor as it was federally. And of course, there's, even though we still know he's hasn't given up on the 51st state thing, because that national security strategy document that came out makes it pretty clear that that's still on his mind. um, that the tension from that, the immediate threat, the tension of that has dissipated in the minds of a lot of people, and that might not be as much of a motivating factor to get people to the polls in the provincial election, especially if we're talking about all politics being local. So that there might be less of an opportunity for that type of a sudden flip to happen with a new leader in this particular instance. But there's always hope, right? And it's certainly not working with the guy that's there. So all of that is a mess. And then, of course, we have at the federal level, Pierre Poilievre not being able to present an offer that is attractive enough to his own caucus members for them to stay, let alone present an offer that is attractive enough for Canadians to want to make him prime minister. Just saying. Apparently, all of that is the Liberals' fault if you listen to Pierre Poilievre's year-end interviews as well. It's like, it's Mark Carney's fault that I'm not able to make an offer that's attractive enough that people would want to stay. It's what we're supposed to believe here. But he's lost 3. And there's lots of talk about him losing more. And there was a really big risk that he would lose a 4th one in a gentleman named, some people would say that I'm using the term generously here, named Aaron Gunn, who made a name for himself many ways, but in particular with, let's call it a profound and vibrant lack of affection for Indigenous people, to put it mildly. And everybody was looking at him and said, "Oh well, he's got the profile. Everybody he's got relatively decent name recognition in British Columbia, and certainly among conservative circles. That there's no lack of the usual cast of characters and suspects that would have thrown a lot of money behind him to try to make that happen." It seemed that that Pierre was going to lose a 4th MP, and that the spin was going to be, he didn't leave because he doesn't like Pierre's leadership. It's just because he was called up. British Columbia needs him. It's an honorable thing. This says nothing about Pierre. That's not exactly true. I mean, had he made the jump, it's like, let's see, 3. Mark Carney's probably going to get his majority through floor crossing. 3 more years under the leadership of Pierre Poilievre, when I really thought I would be in government and probably Minister of Indigenous Affairs by now. And let's see. And I'm watching the way that he's going, and probably not much more chance that we're going to win the next election. And, I signed up to be in cabinet. I didn't sign up to be on opposition benches for another 7 years. So thanks, Pierre. It's been a slice, but I'm going to provincial where I can be the leader and do a better job provincially than you can federally. That the narrative was lining up for that. So everybody was waiting for Mr. Gunn's decision as to what he would do, because they really want to know, pum, 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 will he stay or will he go? So Mr. Gunn made his decision, and he announced it on Christmas Eve. So why not, kids and cubs, take a little look at what it is that he had to say. And
the next premier of British Columbia.
Now this, he took 6 minutes and 5 seconds to finally get it all out. So unfortunately, there's a lot of blah 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 and partisan yeah there, but I'm going to play it for all for you, and I'm not going to interrupt. I'm going to let it wash over you, and you tell me, based on this performance, whether or not this guy, had he won the leadership, had any real chance of becoming premier in a campaign. Here we go.
the toughest decision of my life, whether to give up being a member of Parliament to seek the leadership of the Conservative Party of BC and to be the next Premier of British Columbia. Over the past few weeks, literally thousands of you have reached out over social media, email, and text urging me to run, and I share all of your concerns about the future of our province. The NDP have flooded our streets with drugs. They've abandoned our resource sector, especially the forest industry, with new mills closing almost every single week. They have undermined property rights and scared off investment with vague and dangerous legislation like DRIPA, while they have doubled the provincial debt, and their reckless spending and economic mismanagement has led to a cost of living crisis, especially on housing, that has spiraled completely out of control. Young families and millennials like me, not to mention seniors on fixed incomes, can't afford to live in the province in which they were born and raised. British Columbia is the greatest province in the greatest country in the entire world, and the people who call it home deserve a government that works for them, a government that is a lot better than this. And yet, without the revival of the modern BC Conservative Party, the situation could be even worse. As a founding member of that party, we have helped reshape the culture and public opinion on the issues that matter. Just a few short years ago, you would be called fringe for being against the decriminalization of hard drugs, or opposing the carbon tax, or calling for DRIPA to be repealed, or to end the sexualization of our kids. Now, these aren't just conservative opinions, but opinions widely held by most British Columbians. This only happened because of you and the movement we built. And it is essential that the future of this movement remains in the hands not of downtown Vancouver consultants or large third-party organizations, but in the hands of the common working man and woman, of everyday, hard-working, tax-paying British Columbians who love our province and our incredible country. These are the people who ought to determine the future of the conservative movement and British Columbia. These are the people who I fight for and will continue to fight for every single day. However, as a member of Parliament, I must consider first and foremost the interests of my constituents and, above all, the interests of our country. Last April, Canadians elected a Liberal minority government. Since that time, Mark Carney has pursued a deliberate and transparent strategy to bribe or otherwise convince morally bankrupt MPs to cross the floor with an aim of achieving an undemocratic majority government, a government that Canadians didn't vote for, a result that would be entirely unacceptable for my constituents and the vast majority of Canadians. While the risk is small that my departure could upend the balance of power in Ottawa and give the Liberals that majority government, any risk is too great a risk for me. Secondly, since this fall, there has been a deliberate and orchestrated attempt by Liberals and some in the media to undermine the leadership of Pierre Poilievre. While he has always made clear that he would support whatever decision I made, it is also clear to me that the media and Liberals would attempt to spin my departure as some sort of loss of confidence in Pierre, or worse, a betrayal. A fact that would undermine his leadership and our conservative vision that I believe is so essential for this country, for Canada to live up to its truly awesome potential, and for me to be able to deliver the needed change for the people of my riding. I have always said that I will make this decision, that I will make all decisions based on what I believe is in the best interest of the constituents that I represent and our country. That I will always speak the truth and stand up for what is right, not what is politically correct. And the truth is that right now, I believe that I can best serve my constituents and Canada in Ottawa. So that is where I will be, continuing to represent and going to work for the great people of the North Island and Powell River as their member of Parliament, fighting for them and all Canadians in the House of Commons, continuing to call out policies that target our resource sector and resource workers, that punish law-abiding firearm owners while allowing repeat violent offenders to walk free, opposing bills like C9 that restrict free speech and freedom of religion, and standing against a budget that borrows even more money than Justin Trudeau was planning while leaving future generations with the bill. I understand that some of you were hoping for different news today, but I want to be clear. We need a common sense conservative government, federally and provincially. As a federal MP, I ask that you do your part in ensuring that we will have a solid conservative partner in the BC government, a conservative government led by a conservative premier who will build pipelines, create jobs, and help us unleash the potential of British Columbia. And I commit to you that I will not be silent in this process. Thousands of people have contacted me looking for a movement to join that will represent their voice. And the stakes are high. And while at this time I will continue fighting relentlessly in Ottawa, I will also be looking for a partner here in BC that we can work with to continue building this incredible country. Thank you, as always, for all your support. Merry Christmas, and have a very happy New Year.
Alrighty then. So, kids and cubs, what do you think? Okay, let's hear your opinions before I give mine. We have I hear the school teacher from Charlie Brown. Saucy. He may be worse than Polyev. Saucy, some fashion. The tie is rather wretched. I approve. Kid Tabby. He's afraid that a by-election would result in another Liberal riding. Oh man. Kit Donna. The sucking sounds coming out of Aaron Gunn's mouth are deafening. Ouch! Ouch! Oh my God. Kit Nona Carol. He sounds like he smoked a little before this. Kit Kat. Maybe something under his nose. Meow. Oh, man. Gee. They found a duplicate that has the ability to grow beard. We need to vote for Polyev. We know he is defunct. Yeah, Kit Linda. That's a legal, liable statement giving us outside of Cat Chambers. You noticed that too, eh? So, did he actually say that the party bribed people? Okay. Yeah. Kit Linda. A movement that relies on being loud and lying to people. Kit Tabby. Sounds like a PP wannabe puppet. Yeah. Okay. So, you guys, Kit playing with 3D, almost looks like an AI generated vid. I'm not convinced it isn't. Boom. Kit playing with 3D. You nailed the thing on the head that I had noticed. This guy has zero telegenics. Zero. In fact, I wonder if his initial video was him recording himself saying, yeah, I'm in, I'm running, and then everybody around there watched it and said, oh, girl, no. No, don't. You won't win. Not with that manner of speaking, not with that presentation, not with those speech patterns, not with the manner you deliver, not with the way you come across. It's not going to happen with you. Trust me, girlfriend, stay where you are, because you do not have the abilities that match your aspirations. You will notice that that full first half of that video was like typical conservative thing, right? Like this, oh my God, BC is a hellhole, and all these things. Oh my God, it's so terrible, it's so terrible. We really need somebody to fix that. And then he gets to the however, which is the most, one of the sharpest howevers I have heard in a good time, in a good long while. We're going to do all of this stuff, but all this stuff is real. It's so terrible, it's so terrible, it's so terrible, like this, and I know you really want me to do it. However, and then he goes on to explain a whole bunch of stuff. You will notice throughout the entire video, if you look at it again, his body language is betraying everything he is saying as a fact. There's a lot of statements that he is making while his head is shaking no as he is saying them. That's usually interpreted as a sign that person is lying through his teeth and doesn't believe a word of what they're saying. And he's shaking his head no a lot in that video, pretty much through it. He talks about, well, there's all these problems in British Columbia. Yes, and but if I left, well, it would hurt Pierre. It would hurt Pierre. Pierre, the guy who's the man to do this. I totally, completely believe this is the guy that we need. Yes, we need good people, conservative people that we can win in Ottawa and in British Columbia. Now, here's, again, the logic, right? If Pierre is such a fantastic leader, and you truly believe that he's the guy that will do it and bring you to the promised land, why do you need to remain to help him? Isn't Ottawa covered, and therefore you are free to go to BC to be that strong person in BC? So, if you believe that your departure would be enough, with press doing what press will do, spinning it the way that they will spin it, oh my God, it's another blow for Poilievre, it is that alone would be enough to make it such that Pierre could not win, then is Pierre really the strong and capable leader that you later claimed he was? If he is that strong and capable leader, you should have no problem taking the step to be that person in British Columbia. That's going to solve all that terrible cesspool of problems that you claim exist, and that's really important. So I'm guessing you're telling us, Aaron Gunn, that you have voted non-confidence in yourself. That, or the other possible hypothesis, is that the people in the Conservative Brain Trust are so petrified, including Pierre, that your departure would indeed be the one that sinks him. That they told you, hi, Aaron, we know that you really want to do this and that you have ambitions, but no. We have decided that you do not get to pursue that future career path for yourself. It's one or the other. Even Aaron Gunn, that entire video was him declaring non-confidence in himself and his ability to win and get that job. Or he's confessing, no matter all the words he's using, that Pierre is such a weak leader and such trouble that him deciding now, especially before his leadership review, that he would jump. Which would make the Liberal de facto majority, even though it's not formal one seat stronger. That would be too much for the party to take and too much for Pierre to be able to handle without it having a negative effect on his career. Conservative Party of Canada, for all the noise that its pundits and sycophants and influencers are making online, the party is strong, Pierre's never been stronger. All of that is very severe overcompensation. We've been watching for weeks as all those influencers look at the polling numbers, party support, saying Conservatives are at 40%, Liberals are in free fall because they dropped 2%, Pierre's going to win it the next time. Whoa, yeah, because Pierre's the guy. Trying to claim that the numbers of support for the party are numbers of support for Pierre. We know that that's not the case. We can read a poll. Pierre Poilievre. Never has one Canadian man required such an army of fluffers to just help him stand upright. It's something to watch. It's something to watch. He mentioned at some point that he wants to make things that the risk of something happening federally to Pierre is too big for me, he said. Not for Canada, not for my my constituents, not for British Columbians, but for me. Why, Aaron? Why would Pierre losing be a big risk for you? And not too big a risk for Canada, but you personally. Interesting. Yes. So there's a media campaign out there to undermine the leadership of Pierre Poilievre. Oh, no. Pierre Poilievre is undermining his leadership quite fine all on his own. He doesn't need any media help whatsoever. It's not the media that are making the MPs run away. It's not the media that got Christian Tremont to cross over, and Michael Mott, and Matt Genereux to decide he doesn't want to be in politics and not show up to caucus for votes. The media didn't do that. It's not the media who is undermining Pierre's leadership. Media is just turning the cameras on and letting it record. This is Operation Let Pierre Poilievre Speak. That's why Mark Carney didn't delay the by-election, didn't give Pierre time to regroup, disappear for 2-3 months, and come back with a whole new image. Oh, you want the by-election? Boom, you got it right away. Here you go. Keep campaigning. Because it's really hard to change complete personalities and all your values on a dime. What you campaigned in the federal election with and what you campaigned in the by-election with just a couple of weeks later. You can't change that wholesale and still be credible. Mark Carney locked Pierre into the narrative that wasn't working for him by calling that by-election early. And now Pierre's stuck with that. Even if he wanted to pivot, who would buy it? He had to maintain that persona and the red meat to win that seat in Battle River Crowfoot, and he has to do it to maintain his leadership. Because when you campaign on something and then you spend the whole next year campaigning on the same damn thing and not changing anything, so you can't go into a phone booth and then come back with a whole new personality. You've just doubled, tripled, quadrupled, and quintupled down on the thing that did not work. He's locked in to that narrative. The times are passing him by. Indeed. Wow. So yeah, Aaron Gunn, not running. We'll never know the real reason, but it is entirely within the realm of possibility that party brass tapped him on the shoulder and said, not for you. Everything must go to elevate Pierre. Everything. That's a losing bet, my friends. Perhaps there might be another reason that other reasons that Mr. Gunn might not have been a good candidate overall, because this is from April during the election. April 5th, CBC. Poilievre stands by BC candidate called out for residential school posts. Oh, interesting. Brianna Owen from the Canadian Press writes, warning, this story contains details of experiences at residential schools. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is standing by a British Columbia candidate as calls mount for him to be removed over past comments made about the history of Canada's residential schools. We're talking about a candidate who, during the election, there were public calls to have him removed as a candidate. And some people thought he could be leader of a political party in British Columbia and eventually premier. Judgment, discernment, not a strong point among these people. Poilievre told a news conference in Osoyoos, BC Saturday that accusations of Powell River candidate Aaron Gunn are, quote unquote, misinformation. No, they're not. It's unflattering truth. It is truth that happens to be unflattering to Aaron Gunn in the eyes of people like me and you, members of the Dan family. It's not misinformation. It's unflattering truths being spoken too loudly for your comfort. He said Gunn, quote, has not denied the impact of residential schools and instead wants to condemn the government-sponsored system that removed more than 150,000 Indigenous children from their families, with the last institution closing in 1996. Yes. Condemn it nearly 30 years after the last school closed. Oh, Aaron, you're such a leader. Nobody believes that. Nobody believes that. Poilievre said Gunn wants to, quote, build stronger partnerships with First Nations people to unlock our resources so that we can produce incredible paychecks and opportunities for Indigenous communities across BC. Aaron Gunn doesn't stand for that. There is nothing, not much out there on the record that says Aaron Gunn stands for that, unless it might be an Indigenous community that supports pipeline. But then they only support those Indigenous communities. So as far as they support the pipeline, and I guess that once the pipeline is built, then there goes the support for the Indigenous community, right? Use them, abuse them, and then drop them. That's the modern conservative MO. In videos and statements posted on social media in 2019 and 2021, Gunn said Canada's residential school system did not constitute genocide and that the schools are much maligned. But Pierre is now wanted us to believe in April that Andrew Gunn, how do you put it, wants to build stronger partnerships with First Nations. The residential school system did not constitute genocide, and the schools were much maligned. Those two statements don't coordinate. One of Gunn's posts on X, formerly known as Twitter, also stated that, quote, residential schools were asked for by Indigenous bands. Sure, Jan. Numerous First Nations leaders and groups, as well as municipal politicians in BC, have condemned Gunn's comments and called for his removal, including the Union of BC Indian Chiefs and the BC First Nations Leadership Council. Wow. There's a social media post made by Aaron Gunn on June 13 that reads, residential schools were asked for by Indigenous bands in Eastern Ontario when John A. Macdonald was still a teenager, but hey, why let the truth get in the way of a good headline? Yeah, that's premier material right there. That certainly would not have come back to hobble him during a leadership race. No, or in a provincial election. None of that would have resurfaced, and the plan for the campaign wouldn't be thrown off the rails by him having to deal with these comments in the middle of a leadership and an election campaign. Not at all. Not at all. He's a fantastic leader. Pillar of the community, right? Poilievre said the Conservatives are the only party offering a bright future for First Nations by spurring resource development that will bring money and opportunities to commute. Yes, the guy that said that Indigenous people only needed to be taught a stronger work ethic probably suggested that Pierre was the one to teach it to them, says that the Conservatives are the only party that offer Indigenous First Nations a bright future. If you have eyes and ears, you can't believe this. This is hilarious. The Conservative leader said he would bring in First Nations resource charge, allowing companies to pay taxes directly to communities so they can have incredible prosperity. Another post from Aaron Gunn made on June 4th, 2019. Why are the report authors and now Trudeau sensationalizing truly horrific events that need to be examined honestly and seriously with a loaded word like genocide that doesn't remotely reflect the reality of what happened? Please don't suggest my ancestors were involved in genocide. I won't be able to cope. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which was tasked with researching the residential school system, found the institutions were rife with abuse, with children separated from their families and barred from visiting with their loved ones. It concluded the schools were intended for cultural genocide, saying they were a systematic, quote, attempt to destroy Aboriginal cultures and languages and assimilate Aboriginal people so they no longer existed as distinct peoples. Aaron Gunn does not recognize that this is a reality. The House of Commons unanimously passed a motion in 2022 recognizing Canada's residential schools as genocide. The motion was passed after Pope Francis described residential schools as such after his visit to Canada in July 2022. So Aaron Gunn spent a great part of his pre-federal MP career essentially saying, the Pope is wrong and I know better than the Pope. And Indigenous people, what happened to them? There's some interesting level of arrogance there. And that's common for all that. And it also makes me wonder why Aaron Gunn doesn't run. If he was running for the leadership of a party, why he wouldn't be running for the leadership of One BC instead, because that party seems way more aligned with what it is that he likes to sell. According to the BC Union of BC Indians Chiefs, let's try that again. Union of BC Indian Chiefs. I had to go back and get it because they just referred to the acronym and I couldn't remember it. Grand Chief Stuart Phillip called Gunn's post, quote, absolutely reprehensible and repugnant and completely devoid of any sense of compassion for Indigenous peoples who suffered enormously through residential school experience. I don't think this man is fit for public office, whether it be federal or provincial or any office that allows him to continue to make these horrible statements, he told CBC News. The comments have also drawn condemnation from other political parties, with then NDP leader Jagmeet Singh saying on Sunday that the Tories should drop Gunn. Quote, these comments are heinous, they're hurtful, and they're frankly clearly wrong, he said. Gunn issued a statement on X Thursday, back then when this article was written in April, saying he has, quote, always been firm in recognizing the truly horrific events that transpired in residential schools, and any attempt to suggest otherwise is simply false. Really? Because we just read some of your previous tweets that suggest that what you are saying is simply false, is false. Quote, so his damage control tweet. I'd like to clear up what has been said today. I have always been firm in recognizing the truly horrific events that transpired in residential schools, and any attempt to suggest otherwise is simply false. I have never wavered in condemning these institutions of abuse. I have to read some stuff here. Where countless First Nations suffered at the hands of a patronizing federal government. I have never wavered in condemning the theft of children from their families or the forced destruction of Indigenous language, culture, and traditions. Oh, yes, you've never wavered. You just basically spent 98% of your time talking about how the schools were much maligned and maybe 2% of your time never wavering on the condemning, right? If that, I might be being generous with that 2%. Not only have I repeatedly denounced what happened at residential schools through my documentaries, I have also interviewed more than 24 Indigenous leaders on the importance of economic reconciliation with First Nations, while also highlighting the disproportionate impact the addictions crisis has had on their communities. Leader Pierre Poilievre explained it well at the AFM Assembly last July. Mr. Gunn, you quoting Pierre Poilievre, what Pierre Poilievre says, has absolutely no bearing on your record of what you've done and said. Citing Pierre is completely useless, and I'm not going to read that part because we all know what Pierre thinks of Indigenous people. He made it very clear. He's going to run a pipeline over their territory, whether they want it or not. Right? And then there's that whole thing with the residential schools. Right? The work ethic thing. Once you make a comment like that, it never leaves you. It follows you around for the rest of your life. We must acknowledge the terrible mistake of our past and learn from our history while celebrating Canada as the greatest country on earth. I look forward to working with great candidates such as former Haisla Chief Ellis Ross to repeal the Liberals' radical anti-resource laws to quickly greenlight good projects so First Nations and all Canadians bring home more powerful paychecks. So in other words, Aaron Gunn, the only use that Indigenous people serve and the only Indigenous people we like are the ones who agree with us on pipelines. The rest of them can all go to hell. Pretty much. So yeah, Aaron Gunn, making the only decision, really, that was available to him. Because I just cannot imagine any reality whatsoever in which this guy could have won. And I certainly, based on that performance, don't imagine that he has the persuasion skills to bring more people to his side than those who are already there. And I certainly don't believe, by the way that he reasons and made his case there, that if all this stuff were to come back and haunt him and dog him and explode while he was running for party leadership, or even a larger office, that it wouldn't all come back to haunt him and he wouldn't be able to handle it well, because we just saw in April it coming back to haunt him and him not handling it well, basically denying everything, even though his Twitter feed stands as a testament to everything he believes, and having to quote his leader, who is on record as saying some pretty vile things about Indigenous people, as proof that he doesn't believe vile things. Yeah, if that's what you got, buddy, you don't have the stuff for a campaign, because a campaign for leadership of a party and a premiership of a province is going to be way more tough than your campaign for a local seat in a community where the population may just be such that they believe the same things that you do in that region. But if you ran province-wide with that, you wouldn't win. A little bit like Marjorie Taylor Greene in the United States, when she was just a representative. She can go and say all of that stuff, all that crazy stuff about Jewish speculators and whatnot. But if she had aspirations to becoming a senator for Georgia, which she did, well, then she would have to change her language, because that type of discourse, while it might work in her little district, where there might be a whole lot more people who think exactly as she does, you can't win statewide with that. So all of a sudden, she's given herself a makeover on what she believes. But word on the tweet is that she too was told by Donald Trump, I know you have those aspirations, but no, we're not allowing you to run for it. And now it's a hell hath no fury situation. But don't fool yourself. Marjorie Taylor Greene hasn't suddenly started believing all the things she now claims that she believes, after being one of Trump's most staunch defenders. She just knows that she has to change her views wholesale, and has to start doing the work early enough if she wanted to run statewide, because the track record of everything she said and she's done certainly would not give her the stuff to point to make a successful statewide run, where you have to appeal to a much more broader audience than what's in your neighborhood, what you grew up with, let's say. So same thing might be happening to Mr. Gunn. His hateful discourse towards Indigenous people might be good enough to allow him to win in his electoral district. But I think that's as far as it goes for him. So, no big loss, but it will be interesting to see what happens with the BC Conservatives and who lines up to lead the party, because as far as I know, he was the most high-profile potential candidate. Hopefully, there's some people in the BC Conservative Party now that Rustad, who's still sitting as a caucus member but has been pushed to the sidelines, might determine that the hate and the denial and all that kind of stuff that may not be the path that leads to where it is that they want to go, and will wake up and present a more normal offer. But I would not hold my breath. Another little thing, kids and cubs. I personally had a little run-in with a CPC MP yesterday, and he decided. Well, I have a little theory, that a little saying that says, "Never try to outwit a queen," because they're better at it and they will bury you. Mr. Frank Caputo decided he wanted to tangle with me yesterday, and it didn't really work out well for him. um, he made this comment yesterday, which was, I don't know, maybe it's because I was in a bit of a mood yesterday, and I just had no time for it. Because I was in a bit of a mood yesterday, I will admit. Uh, but he wrote something. It was this sort of like typical BS that these conservatives are all instructed to write. And I decided that I was going to respond to that, and I don't think it went well for him. But Frank Caputo seems to have been assigned specifically to harassing two particular Liberal MPs. One of them, Bruce Fanjoy, once again bolstering my hypothesis with regard to Pierre Poilievre. Never has one man needed such an army of online fluffers to help him remain vertical. But it looks like Frank Caputo has been assigned to Bruce Fanjoy duty, as well as Corey Hogan, the MP for Calgary Confederation duty. He seems to tweet about them a lot. Also seems to not have much affection for female journalists of color like Althea Raj. Just saying. So Bruce Fanjoy writes, just so we're clear, if Frank tried to cross the floor, he'd be returned. Ouch! To which Frank Caputo didn't respond to Bruce Fanjoy, but basically took his tweet, used it as a quote, and then decided to talk about him rather than talk with him, and said, good, because they know I wasn't a liberal. I have a spine and principles, and don't lie to my constituents about job cuts. Okay. We have a conservative here who has deluded himself into believing that he has a spine and principles, and that he doesn't lie to his constituents about job cuts. So, like I said, I was in a bit of a mood. If you have to say, I have a spine and principles, you have neither. Because if you did, it would be obvious, right? And if it's true that you don't lie to your constituents about job cuts, it's either because there are no job cuts afoot about for which you to lie, or it's the one and only thing you choose not to lie to your constituents about. Well, Mr. Caputo didn't like that. And on my profile, I have something that says kindness is power. So he quotes, kindness is power. Now, kids and cubs. Frank Caputo clearly fancies himself clever and clearly believes that he is the first person to ever tweeted that to me, because I point out something. I'm a little critical about something, so therefore I am unkind. Apparently, if you write kindness is power on your profile, if you recognize that there's power in kindness, apparently, if you dare to hold up a mirror to somebody's face and they don't like what they see, that's unkind. Well, that did not go well for him at all. At all. At all. Okay, sir, Mr. Kindness is power. Oh, good. I finally got your attention. One, you're far from the first to make that comment. You're not original. And we all know that the number one cardinal on sin Number one cardinal sin on Twitter is being boring. 2, it only has weight if you are kinder than me, and you shall for a man who campaigned proudly on removing Canadians' fundamental rights using the notwithstanding clause. So, you're not? 3, it's not unkind to point out a truth that happens to be unflattering. 4, you can act all superior on Twitter all you want, but when it's you yourself in your mirror and your creator, no, you lie, deceive, distort, and punch down on those with less power. For a living. 5, the party you choose to represent, because it is a choice, pleaded guilty in court to the in and out affair, which was criminal, and the man you work for has a lifetime compliance agreement with Elections Canada for cheating. So tell me again about your principles, sir. And then, to finish it off, and about that spine you claim to have, I just have one honest question, Mr. Caputo. Where do you store it when you slither around social media commenting on the kindness of others without first checking your own reflection in a mirror? You're a terrible person. It's hilarious. And that, damn fam, is how you do it. Mr. Caputo still has not responded. I don't think he will. Don't cross a gay man. Never cross a gay man. Not going to work out well for you. We've taken a lot of crap from a lot of people. There's a reason we have razors for tongues. We needed it. Kindness is power. Yeah. So, excuse me, Mr. Hateful, you're going to comment on my kindness? Really? Let's hold up a mirror. Let's talk about your principles in your spine. You brought them up. You opened the door, counselor. And you will notice, like this, that his response was mocking kindness is power. He didn't stand up for his principles. He didn't prove he had principles. He didn't prove he had a spine in response. He chose to live down to every expectation I had. He thinks he won, but he knows he didn't. And he certainly didn't have the courage to reply. So there. Mr. Caputo, if you happen to have some of your team members watching this after our little interaction, and you would like to have a phone call or a meeting in your constituency office, I would be more than happy to make the trip to Ottawa, where I will have a totally pleasant conversation. Well, pleasant. It will whether the conversation is pleasant or not will depend more on you. I will be my usual kind and welcoming and calm self. I will be willing to sit across the table from you and say, okay, I'm listening, and hear what you have to say. But I will not let you cut me down. I will not let you look me in the face and tell me that you've got a spine and principles when you so clearly lack judgment and discernment. If you do have principles, sir, they're probably not ones of which you should be proud. But if you would like, I promise to be entirely respectful and to have a very civil conversation with you, if you promise to show up in kind. So if any of your team would like to have a discussion about how it is you come across and how it's maybe not a good idea to punch down on fellow citizens from your position of power and privilege, and if you would need to have a conversation with a citizen of Canada that reminds you that even though Pierre is the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, your boss is actual Canadian citizens, and maybe you should treat them with a little more decency. I would be happy to have that conversation with you, sir. I'm online, you know where to find me. But right now, I'm not impressed. And my audience isn't either. All right. Yeah, like I said, was in a little mood yesterday. All right, kits and cubs. There's other stuff out there. So let's give it a little look-see. And what else is in the news for us today? There is, well, first of all, of course, we're still having some weather. Kits and cubs. Some pretty heavy weather as well here. This is from when I came on, so about 2 hours ago. It was 6:31 a.m. So this is the, hopefully, as a recent, well, I mean, it is relatively recent. I'm not sure if there's anything more recent, but this is what I have now. And if I find something else, I will bring it to you. But according to CBC News, Canada's cold crunch is continuing into Tuesday after a winter storm slammed Ontario and Quebec, wreaking havoc on roads and leaving tens of thousands without power. Millions remain under yellow and orange weather warnings from Environment Canada as storms sweep through multiple provinces stretching from eastern Ontario to the Atlantic region. Snow squalls, blowing snow, and cold temperatures following yesterday's freezing rain could further complicate travel. In Ontario and Quebec, storm fronts brought freezing rain, blowing snow, and strong winds, leaving tens of thousands without power at one point. The Federal Weather Agency says some areas northeast of Quebec City and into northern New Brunswick could see between 15 and 40 centimeters of snow, along with high winds. Much of Canada has been blasted with a number of weather events over the last week, ranging from blizzards and cold snaps to freezing rain. And there's lots of stuff here. There's a yellow warning cold in effect for Old Crow in Yukon, blizzard, yellow warning in Dempster in Yukon, cold warning in South Delta region, including Fort McPherson and Sugechik. Tuktoyaktuk has a yellow warning for cold in effect. Fort Good Hope region, I believe in the Northwest Territories, has a warning for cold, as does Colville Lake. Let's see, what else do we have here? Baker Lake has a winter storm warning in effect. Nojuat has a blizzard warning in effect. Up in the Rankin region, including Whale Cove, has a winter storm warning in effect. Churchill, Manitoba has a winter storm in effect. The Cassiar Mountains straddling the Yukon-BC northern border has a yellow warning for snowfall. In the North Coast inland, including Kitimat, has a rainfall warning. A lot of Alberta, slightly north and west of Edmonton, has a huge freezing rain warning in effect. The west coast of northern Quebec has warnings for blizzard, lots of yellow warnings there. In Kujarapik specifically, there's also a blizzard warning in effect. When we get to a little lower to James Gray, Black Grand River, Waskaganish, Moosonee, Fraservale, there's winter storm and blowing snow effects, and pretty much all of north east Ontario has some type of a weather warning. Out in Quebec, Chibougamau has a winter storm warning in effect. Over in southern Ontario, we have lots of snow squall warnings. Further into eastern Quebec, near the Manic 5 area, winter storm warnings as well for Fremont and Schefferville. In the Rimouski, area. Winter storm affects the Amqui area, Grande Rivière, Cascapedia, all that area in Quebec. Out in Nova Scotia, Cumberland County North and Cobequid Pass has a snow squall warning. Same thing for Colchester County, Kings County, Annapolis County. There's a lot of them there. And on the west coast of Newfoundland and Labrador, on the rock itself, Corner Brook and the vicinity has a yellow warning for wind. Same thing for Bay St. George, Channel, Pajo, Basque, and vicinity. They have what's called wreck house wind in effect, and I have no idea what wreck house wind means because that is a completely new term for me. So, I suspect it could be for you as well. So I'm going to take a look at what that means, and it says this is, let's see, for wreck house wind warning. It is when wind gusts exceed 100 kilometers an hour. Okay, and there are wreck house wind warnings for, according to the Transportation and Infrastructure Department in Newfoundland and Labrador, a place called, there are wind signed locations. Okay, so this is at the areas where the advisories are taking place here. Yeah, all right. So yeah, please, 100 kilometer an hour winds in this cold wintry weather is really rough. So everybody, please be safe. In Ottawa yesterday, I was seeing on the news that they had the first day, and then there was a melt, and then there was like a flash freeze, and basically everything was like a skating rink there. Again, if you're in places that are like that, if you don't have to go out, please stay off the roads, leave the roads clear so that they can be salted and for emergency vehicles and all that kind of stuff. Again, if you're out of power, I wanted to remind you, if you have a small room in the house that you can keep relatively sealed and warm with some candles, please do that. If you do not have that, a table or any type of structure like that you can cover in blankets and have the blankets reach the floor and then keep that space warm, do that. Keeping warm is very, very, very important. So please ensure that you are doing that. And like I said, if you don't need to be on the roads, don't. And remember, if you have no available electricity or low, not a lot of battery left on your phone, you can go to cbc.ca/lite, LITE, to maintain contact with information that will probably that will come to you if there are any updates that you need to be aware of. So please, please, please do be careful, stay safe, and stay warm. It's very important in these conditions. Okay. In BC, some residents were left stranded after heavy rainfall washed out a section of Highway 16 in Haida Gwaii, connecting the north and south parts of the island. I think there's some issue in Pikachikamek, also First Nation, yesterday, where power had been completely cut off and a state of emergency had been issued by the community there. Meanwhile, a strengthening bomb cyclone is barreling its way across the northern United States, unleashing severe weather in the Midwest and aiming at the East Coast. In London and the Lake Huron and Georgian Bay regions, Environment and Climate Change Canada is warning of continuing blizzard conditions with dangerous snow squalls, advising residents to beware of prolonged disruptions to transportation services and utilities. Quote, dangerous snowfalls and significant blowing snow continue, the agency said, noting snow could continue falling until Thursday, and in some places reach 50 centimeters of accumulation. Near zero visibility remains the primary concern due to northwesterly winds gusting 50 to 70 kilometers an hour. Those winds are expected to ease by Tuesday evening, the warning said. A large swath of northern Ontario, stretching east and covering northern parts of Quebec, as well as under yellow warning for, quote, difficult winter conditions, which include about 10 more centimeters of snow, strong winds, and reduced visibility. An orange warning persists for northern Nova Scotia along the northeast coast of Cape Breton Island due to a Le Souet wind from Marguerite Harbour to Bay St. Lawrence. The southeasterly winds of up to 140 kilometers an hour, holy crap, could cause damage and flip high-sided vehicles, Environment Canada and Climate Change warned. A similar warning was also issued on Monday. Much of the Atlantic region is under yellow warnings for freezing rain that could in some places lead to flooding, the agency said. Oh, winter flooding is absolutely horrible. Meanwhile, Air Canada cautioned on its website that flights to and from Montreal, Ottawa, and both Toronto airports could still be affected Tuesday as the airline recovers from a weather-related backlog. And there's some friends of mine that took them 3 days. They were going to the Dominican Republic. It took them, I think, 2 or 3 days just to get from Toronto to Montreal. It was rough. It comes after a number of flights were cancelled or delayed in Montreal, Toronto, London, Ontario, Halifax, and St. John's on Monday. Southern Quebec is no longer under weather warnings, but is seeing colder temperatures after freezing rain-coated streets and sidewalks in Montreal, prompting 100 911 calls an hour on Monday morning. An ambulance service reported. Despite a thaw later in the day, ice could return in some parts of the city and the province as temperature hits minus 13, feeling like minus 24, according to Environment and Climate Change Canada. So again, stay safe. Stay off the roads. If you don't need to be, and if you do need to be on the roads to go pick up a couple of vitals, pick up a couple of extra things and stock up so you don't have to go out again. Kit Landan saying, we're in a bubble where I live where the snow squalls pass over us largely. Yeah. So, yeah. All right. Okay, what else do we have for you today, Kits and Cubs, in the news here? Oh, I should check how we're doing for time because I've just been yammering. Oh my God, already 2 hours. Where does the time go? We've been having a really, I've been having a great time today with you, Kits and Cubs. The time's just been flying by. There is so much more that I wanted to present today. But yeah, you know what? And there's some, you know what? I'm going to leave the news for now because there are a couple of seasonal things I wanted to bring to you. Because, you know, it can't all be news, especially doomy and gloomy stuff at this particular time of year. You know, it's we're spending time with loved ones and sharing cheer and celebrating the end of the year and getting ready to ring in a new one. Maybe take on a few resolutions for those of us who do that. So I will instead have maybe some good news stories a little bit and something that's a little more seasonal. There is some labor news, which is really interesting, Kits and Cubs, because it would be a first. And it's, well, you know, we like it when new milestones get set. But for those who are in the gaming, who work in the gaming industry, according to Meg Campbell, about 60 Halifax workers for global video game giant Ubisoft have formed the company's first union in North America. TJ Gillis, a senior server developer at Ubisoft Halifax, said he became increasingly concerned about the growth of artificial intelligence in the industry and after the closure of a Microsoft gaming studio in Halifax, AlphaDog, in 2024. Quote, we're seeing a ton of studios, especially larger studios, just letting people go with no unions or support. People were just being left to fend for themselves, oftentimes having to leave industry, said Gillis. Gillis said he got into contact with CWA Canada to begin efforts to build a union with other colleagues. CWA Canada also represents about 120 Montreal workers at Bethesda Game Studios, which is owned by Microsoft and produces popular video games like Fallout. Quote, I think this is a right direction for us to be moving to, especially with AI coming, in where we want to maintain the artistic value of game development, Gillis said. The union was formed 6 months after filing union certification and after 74% of staff at Ubisoft Halifax voted to join CWA Canada. This marks the first and only union within Ubisoft across North America. The company, which employs more than 17,000 people globally, has unionized workforces in other parts of the world. A spokesperson for Ubisoft said in a statement to CBC News that they, quote, acknowledge the decision issued by the Nova Scotia Labour Board and reaffirm our commitment to maintaining full cooperation with the board and union representatives. Carmel Smythe is the president of CWA Canada and says she is already hearing from other employees at tech companies who want to follow Ubisoft, Halifax's lead. CWA Canada also directly represents CBC employees, and Smythe is on leave from her role as a CBC producer. Quote, we know that it is prompting more interest, and why wouldn't it? It's thousands of Canadians who work in that industry. It's a business that is driven by personal input, blood, sweat, and tears of the workers, said Smythe. Smythe said the gaming industry is still new in some regard, and unions have yet to become widespread among the industry in North America. Quote, because there's no union to protect workers, the company just decides that they were firing and they fired them. That could happen anywhere. It is more likely in the tech industry. Well, if it's not unionized, it's more likely, said Smythe. Gillis said the goal of forming the Ubisoft Halifax Union is to maintain their current workplace and have a say in how it grows, and it's a goal he hopes much more of the industry will be able to achieve. Quote, we're quite excited that we can hopefully influence some of our North American co-workers as well. So there you go. And on that note as well, in Ontario, there are some new rules for job postings, which you may wish to be aware of because they are material, I would say. According to the CBC, according to Campbell McDermott, says the Ontario government is introducing new rules for publicly advertised job postings in the new year, but questions remain over whether the changes will result in tangible benefits for job seekers. Changes under the Employment Standards Act come into effect on January 1st, 2026, and will apply to employers with more than 25 workers. Among the changes, employers will be required to post information about compensation for any advertised position. If a salary range is posted, it must be within $50,000 a year or less. This is good because I know when I was applying for jobs, especially starting out, a lot of people would ask, what are your salary expectations? And it's like, well, I mean, I have what I would like to know, but I have no idea what this type of job and this type of range at this type of level pays. And I don't want to rule myself out by putting a number that's too high, but I also don't want to make myself a really, really, really cheap date by lowballing myself, not knowing what the range is. So asking employers to proactively put a salary range like this, and then you could make your expectations within that range. It is good for prospective employees. They'll also be prohibited from asking for Canadian work experience in any job posting and will be required to inform applications whether a hiring decision has been made within 45 days of the last interview. So maybe that's an end of the days of having interviews with this, not getting the job, but nobody giving you the courtesy as a human being of actually following up with you and letting you know you didn't get the job. That's happened to many people. Catherine Tremblay is the owner of Altus Recruitment, a staffing firm working across Canada. She applauded the Ontario government for seeking to increase transparency and equity in the hiring process, but questioned whether the changes would have the desired impact. British Columbia introduced a requirement to include wage details on all public job ads in 2023 with a view toward improving pay equity. Since then, BC has reported modest success in closing the gender wage gap, with a report this year showing a 2% decrease in pay inequality between men and women. Quote, so there's a little bit of a gain, but we haven't seen it really close the pay gap there, said Tremblay, who predicted similar marginal gains from Ontario's new rule on posting expected compensation. Quote, I really am happy that the government is seeking to cause more pay transparency. I just don't know if it's going to have the desired effect, she said. In particular, allowing a band of up to $50,000 could diminish the information value of a posted salary. It worries me that it's such a broad range, she said. Similarly, she doubted whether the notification about the use of artificial intelligence in recruiting will allay concerns about whether the new technology could introduce hidden bias into the recruitment process. Quote, the problem is that all employers are going to say the same thing. We are using AI in some format to screen and select candidates, and a human will call you to do an interview, she explained. With unemployment rising in Ontario, Tremblay worries the new regulations could be onerous for employers. Quote, I'm seeing all employers scrambling to get this in place, she said. I think it would have been great if this would have been implemented a few years ago, but right now, at a time when we all need to be focused on increasing revenue and maximizing our high performance and upskilling our candidates and our employees on AI, the timing isn't great. Yes, but it needs to be done. So there you go. Some new rules in Ontario. Hopefully that will make the job search process a little less crazy making. Let's put it that way. All right, kids and cubs. The other thing I had for you is because it's the season, a feel-good story. Because I love feel-good stories. Now, this one isn't has nothing to do with Canada in any way, shape, or form. I just thought it was a nice story, and I wanted to share it because I like it when good people do good things for other good people, and it works out for everyone involved. And this is such a story. It happened in oh my word, I'm having difficulty here. Let's try this one more time. See if I can bring it up. There we go. Third time's a charm. This comes from the BBC. It was written by Charlie Buckland, and the story's called "We Invited a Man into Our Home at Christmas, and he stayed with us for 45 years." Be prepared to grab some tissue. You might need it. Christmas is often regarded as a time for goodwill, but one young UK couple's act of kindness 50 years ago changed their lives forever. On the 23rd of December 1975, Rob Parsons and his wife Diane were preparing for Christmas at their Cardiff home when they heard a knock at the door. On their doorstep stood a man with a bin bag containing his possessions in his right hand and a frozen chicken in his left. Rob studied the man's face and vaguely remembered him as Ronnie Lockwood, someone he would occasionally see at Sunday school as a boy, and who he was told to be kind to as he was, quote, a bit different. I said, "Ronnie, what's with the chicken?" he said. "Somebody gave it to me for Christmas," and then I said two words that changed all of our lives. And I'm not exactly sure why I said them. I said, "Come in." Aged just 27 and 26 years old at the time, the couple felt compelled to take Ronnie, who was autistic, under their wing. They cooked his chicken, let him bathe, and agreed to let him stay for Christmas. What began as an act of compassion turned into a unique companionship of love and compromise that lasted 45 years until the day Ronnie died. Rob, now 77, and Diane, now 76, had only been married for 4 years when they welcomed Ronnie into their home. Ronnie then was almost 30 and had been without a home from the age of 15, living in and around Cardiff and moving from job to job. Rob would sometimes see him at a youth club he ran. To make him feel as welcome as possible, they asked their family to bring him a gift for Christmas, anything from a pair of socks to some smellies. Quote, I can remember him now. He was sat at the Christmas table and he had these presents and he cried because he'd never known that sort of feeling of love, said Diane. It was incredible, really, to watch. The pair planned to let him stay until the day after Christmas, but when the day came, they couldn't bring themselves to cast Ronnie out and sought advice from the authorities. The homeless center told them Ronnie needed an address to get a job, Rob said, but, quote, to get an address, you need a job. That's the catch-22 that loads of homeless people are in. Put in a care home when he was just 8 years old, Ronnie disappeared from Cardiff, aged 11, said Rob, and it was only when he was researching for his book, A Knock on the Door, did he discover what happened to him. He had been sent 200 miles away to a school which was referred to in the report as a school for subnormal boys, and he lived there for 5 years. Quote, he didn't have any friends there. He had no social worker that knew him. He had no teachers that knew him. Rob said Ronnie would often ask, quote, have I done a bad thing? Something which they believe he picked up from his time at the school. Quote, he was always worried he had offended you or done something wrong. Aged 15, Ronnie was sent back to Cardiff, quote, to nothing, they said. The couple said Ronnie was a bit awkward to begin with as he would struggle to make eye contact and conversation was kept to a minimum. Quote, but then we got to know him and, in truth, we got to love him, they said. They helped Ronnie get a job as a waste collector and took him to buy new clothes after finding he wore the same clothes he was given as a teenager at the school. Quote, we didn't have kids of our own. It was like dressing your kid for school. We were proud parents, said Rob. As we came out of the shop, she, Diane, said to me, quote, he's got a job as a dustman. We've dressed him up as though he's the front man of the Dorchester Hotel, Rob laughed. Rob, who was a lawyer, would get up an extra hour early to drop Ronnie to work before going to work himself. When he would get home, Rob said Ronnie would often be sitting there, just smiling, and one night he asked, "Ronnie, what's amusing you so much?" Ronnie replied, "Rob, when you take me to work in the mornings, the other men say, 'Who's that who brings you to work in that car?' And I say, 'Oh, that's my solicitor.'" We don't think he was proud of being taken to work by a lawyer, but we think maybe he had somebody take him on his first day of school, said Rob. And now he's almost 30. At last, somebody is at the gate. Ronnie had many rituals they'd become accustomed to, including emptying the dishwasher each morning, to which Rob would act surprised to avoid Ronnie's disappointment. It's hard to look surprised when you get the same question on Tuesday that you had on Monday, but that was Ronnie. We did that for 45 years, he laughed. He obviously struggled to read and write, but he would buy the South Wales Echo every day, Diane added. Ronnie would buy them the same Marks and Spencer gift cards every Christmas, but each year he held the same excitement for their reaction. Ronnie spent a lot of his spare time at their local church gathering donations for the homeless and setting up for services, meticulously lining out the chairs. Diane recalled one day he came home with a different pair of shoes on, and she asked, "Ronnie, where are your shoes?" He told her a homeless man needed them. That's the type of man he was. He was amazing, they said. One of their lowest times was when Diane was ill with ME, also known as chronic fatigue syndrome. As she recalled, there were being days where she couldn't get out of bed. Quote, "I had a little 3-year-old daughter. Rob was away working," said Diane. But she said Ronnie was, quote, "remarkable and came into his own, making milk bottles for their son Lloyd, helping out around the home, and playing with their daughter Katie." While they admitted the dynamic had its difficulties, including battling Ronnie's gambling addiction for 20 years, they couldn't imagine their lives without him. Quote, "It's not something I would recommend as a strategy," said Rob, "but Ronnie enriched our lives in many ways. He had a great heart, Ronnie. He was kind. He was frustrating," said Diane. "Sometimes I was his mother, sometimes I was his social worker, and sometimes I was his career." Somebody said to them, their children, one day, "How did you cope with Ronnie when your friends came to the house?" They said. "Well, we don't think about it, really. It's just Ronnie." Rob added, "Our kids had never known life without Ronnie. He was there before they came, and he was there when they were gone with children of their own." Only once did the couple consider supporting Ronnie to live independently, a few years after he moved in. As their 2 children were growing older and space felt limited in their one-bathroom home, they approached Ronnie's room to suggest him getting a flat down the road from them. But as they entered, he repeated that familiar question, "Have I done a bad thing?" Rob said Diane hushed him out of the room, burst into tears, and said, "I can't do it." A few nights later, Ronnie entered their room and asked, "We are 3 firm friends, aren't we?" I said, "Yes, Ronnie, we are 3. We 3 are firm friends," said Rob. "And we will be together forever, won't we?" he asked. And there was a moment's pause, probably too long. I looked across to Di and I said, "Yes, Ronnie, we will be together forever." And we were. Ronnie died in 2020 at the age of 75 after suffering a stroke, and the couple said they miss him terribly. Only 50 people were allowed to go to his funeral due to COVID, but tickets were hotter than a Coldplay concert, Rob joked. They received at least 100 sympathy cards from Oxford University professors to politicians and the unemployed. After his death, a new $1.6 million pound well-being centre attached to the Glenwood Church in Cardiff was named Lockwood House, after Ronnie. Okay, if you're not crying now, I don't... Yeah. Oh my God. But the old building and the new building didn't quite match, and they needed extra funding to finish the renovation. But they needn't have worried, said Rob. Almost to the penny. It was the exact amount Ronnie had left in his will. In the end, the homeless man put the roof over all of our heads. Isn't that amazing? I just think it's all meant to be, said Diane. People say to us, how did it happen 45 years? But the honest truth is, in some ways, it happened a day at a time. Quote, Ronnie brought a richness into our lives. I told you would need a tissue. I didn't think I would need a tissue because I had already read the story once. But yeah, it's amazing sometimes, the way life will turn. Life that you never expected to have. We need more people like that. We need a lot more people like that. So there you go, kits and cubs. Yeah, Kit Elaine, thankful for the waterproof. I know, right? Kit Saucy, I didn't want to cry this book. Yes, but it's not sad tears, right? It's not sad tears. This is like just, again, I love love. And if that isn't love, I don't know what is. Oh my God, I think I might have just quoted Fiddler on the Roof there. Oh, man. Woo, little verklempt. Okay, kids and cubs. That's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. And remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your people groups all about us, especially if you include a little bit about why it is our content resonates with you. That is advertising that we just cannot buy. It is priceless, priceless, priceless. And we are so honored and privileged that you do that for us. Now, kids and cubs, if you would like us to help you because you might be busy and on the go, especially during this holiday season, and don't necessarily have time to watch the show live with the Dan fam, well, thanks to the Ray Girl, we got you covered. All you need to do is scan this little QR code that appears, and that will bring you to our pod page, podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when we have something fresh off the podcast bandwidth, comes right there directly to your feed, and that way you can pop us in your ears and take on the day while remaining informed. Now, if you would like to help us get some cubs, one of the ways you can do that is by making your way to our YouTube page, the True North Eager Beaver Media page, and clicking on our buttons like, share, and subscribe. Kids Elaine and Cassie will certainly approve, and there's only 2 more days in the year, so I mean, if you haven't gotten down and freaky with our buttons in 2025, what are you waiting for? You can only delay the gratification so long. So give us a little click and a flick. We're very, very happy when you do that because it helps us with the algorithm. Thank you so much for that. And kids and cubs, if you would like to help us in other ways, we do incur some costs to bring this show to you, and we would be so grateful to receive an enthusiastic expression of encouragement for you to say, keep on going. Add a beaver, add a grizzly, we love what you're doing. We want you to do more of it. Here's a little something. If you would like to do that, that QR code that just appeared will bring you to our coffee page, and that's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. A couple of loonies, a couple of toonies in our tip jar, affectionately known as the Emergency Hydration Fund, will go a long way to keeping your favorite beaver nice and moist. I like popping that tea. It's my musical theater training. You have to pronounce it. So, if you would like to keep your favorite beaver properly hydrated, humected, and slightly wet on the inside, of course, water. Get your minds out of the gutter. A little contribution to the Eager Beaver Lodge's Emergency Hydration Fund goes a long, long, long way, and plus it earns you our undying gratitude, which is extremely valuable. It is. So please scan that QR code. Put that right back down and go to our coffee page and make a little donation there, and you'll get a shout out on our show too. So there you go. That's a wonderful bonus. And of course, kids and cubs, if you're doing the Buy Canadian thing, because that's still very, very important, we're not dropping that, then you would do a direct bank-to-bank transfer from your bank to ours using our email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. And when you do that, well, first of all, the important thing is that none of the CE tech bros in the United States get your portion of your donation. That portion actually comes to us. Yes, we get 100% of your donation, which means that your beaver buck goes further and you get more bang for it. So we can give you more show for the same donation. Now that sounds like a really good deal. I mean, maybe a little biased there, but that sounds like a fantastic deal. So you might want to jump on that. Of course, on our YouTube page, we have memberships and super chat if you would like to make a donation that way. Those are always very much appreciated. Every little thing you donate contributes and helps a lot. There is no donation too small, so please do not be afraid to give whatever you can. And if you are not able to give anything because times are tight, well then, you need not to worry, because you have given us the gifts of your presence and your attention, and those are incredibly valuable, and we really, really appreciate those. But you can still contribute to the show by writing to us at truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com and letting us know what you think about the show, or having some guest suggestions, or even share with us just some good news that you have, good things going on in life. If you're artistic in any way, if you paint or you crochet or you knit and you want to show us your creations, all of it, we're interested. This is community. We love to see the good things you are working on, and the things that bring you joy. And of course, as always, remember, hashtag kids who cook. If you're cooking or eating something yummy, take some photos and let us see, because sometimes that gives me ideas for what I want to make for dinner too. And I find that very helpful. So all of that is good. There's many ways to participate, so don't worry. Don't worry. If you're not able to contribute financially, just contribute. And remember, on our YouTube page, in the posts section, we have some poll questions for you, Kits and Cubs, that we would love to get your answers to for year in review episodes that we have planned coming up. So all of that good stuff. Just show up, participate, engage. Remember that we also have the Damn Fam Discord, very, very important, organized by the members of the Damn Fam. And of course, we have our socials if you want to reach us there. We have at True Eager at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, and on the Jitter, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook, which is our original home, right down here in the comments section in YouTube. There's also the Instagram that is run by Kit Uncovered. So there's all these places where you can communicate with us, and we do read everything, even though we're not able to answer everyone. And we thank you for everything that you do to contribute to the show and to keep the discussion going when the shows are over. It's a lovely little community that we've built here, mostly because you are in it and you do what you do in it. And I am just so proud of all of you for having built this space and come along on this ride and making it a lovely place to be. So thank you. I know I thank you a lot, Kids and Cubs, but it is, again, you guys are making my dreams come true. So I am grateful to you deeply for that. It's been a beautiful year. It's not over yet. Not over yet. Still got one more day. But it's been a beautiful year in your company. And I personally would not have it any other way. And that's why I don't take summers off, and that's why I do shows even on stat holidays, because I just love my damn fun time. I get so much from you. So thank you. You are all the most precious gift I can ask for. So thanks. I'm getting sappy today. I'm getting sappy. Okay. And there we go. Kit Saucy putting the Damn Fam Discord link there. Thank you so much. Because democracy is something that you do, Kits and Cubs. Hey, we have a House of Commons petition 6821. And hopefully today I will be able to bring it up so that I can post a link for you. And this is a House of Commons petition that wants to encourage our members of parliament to pass some legislation to make it such that our foreign ownership laws with regard to media changed so that independent Canadian journalism, which is essential to democracy, and because it ensures accountability, accuracy, and representation of Canadian voices, is actually owned by Canadians and operated by Canadians for the benefit of Canadians. So if you think that that's important, please sign the petition. We're at 7,709 petitions so far. We want that to grow. Not surprised or too concerned that there's slower growth between the holiday season, because this type of stuff is not necessarily what is top of mind at this particular season. But we will still keep um, promoting the petition. The link that I put in is a little more complicated than the one from the page itself. So let me see if I can get a cleaner link for you here, kids and cubs. And it seems I cannot today, unfortunately. So you're going to get the long one that might bring you to a search page today. And then you'd have to do a second click to get there, because I was not able to get a clean one for you. But you can at least still get there. So there you go. Let's see. Oh, and also, kids and cubs, very, very important, especially as we are going into the new year. Please, kids and cubs, tomorrow's New Year's Eve, and we have a lot of weather going on. So please do not drink and drive. Please make sure that you have your ride planned, and that you have your designated driver, or that you have make sure that you have money for a cab, or all of that kind of stuff. Right? It's very important that the most important thing to do when you're celebrating is make sure that you arrive alive and in one piece. So please, please, please be careful and do not drink and drive. And to that effect, I have a little bit of help here delivering that message from some members of the cast and crew from Guys and Dolls. It seems that if you've seen the musical, or if you are familiar with the story, you know that there's Sergeant Sarah, Sister Sarah, who wants to you know, take on the world. She's working on a mission, and she wants to reduce sin and all that gambling and whatnot. And one of the quotes in this play from the Bible is "No peace unto the wicked." And some of our some of our cast and crew, including our show's director, decided to have a little fun and took a couple of pictures, indicating what might happen to the wicked. This is all in pure fun, kids and cubs. So here's number one. So here we have the No Peace Unto the Wicked, and this is our lovely stage manager, along with our lovely director, and our behind backstage manager, our director, and overall stage manager. And you can see that our director and our stage manager are enjoying a couple of potent potables. But then they decided that maybe they were going to consider drinking and driving. And the lovely lady here, who believes in temperance and moderation and no peace unto the wicked, decided to ensure that there would be no drinking and driving today. So there you go. If you do... You can see why I loved working on this show. We had the best people who had no problem being silly. So, but please, very, very important message: do not drink and drive. Stay safe. All right, that's all I got for you right now. So, kids and cubs, audience participation time. Will you please say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cog. And when you do, we will come back with a little video from a source that I really enjoy, both the fifth column or Belle of the Ranch, depending how you're referring to it these days, with a little tale on the perhaps true meaning of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol that some people might have missed. How's that for a cliffhanger? Now gets the Cubs. Here's the count. 1, 2, 3. Let me hear it. Ooh. Well, with 2 more days in the year, how can I resist offering you just a little cock-a-doodle-doo? Here you go.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.
All right, kids and cubs. Now that you are back with us, this is really weird. Oops, sorry. This is not working. Things are going terrible. Okay. Things suddenly went awry. I'm not sure if you heard the thing that was playing. I wanted to show you something, again, the true meaning of A Christmas Carol, but I forgot because I'm not at my home computer. I do not have the ad-free YouTube thing in order to be able to do that. So, kids and cubs, I will hold off on that for today because it's a good thing and I don't want it to be interrupted with a commercial. So I will save that for you. Sorry, I teased and did not deliver, but I'm noticing it, I'm noting it, I'm putting it in the filing cabinet, and I will bring it for you because it is really good. However, don't worry, I'm not leaving you without some good news because we have a little bit of news about some Canadians who make us proud, and that would be, of course, the team at the World Juniors who made it 3 wins in a row for Team Canada with a very impressive victory against Denmark yesterday. That was it was a bit of a blowout, to be totally honest, but a good recovery for the team after a very, very tight match with Latvia the day before. So, yes, Canada had won the match against Denmark with a very impressive score of 9-1, and Gavin McKenna scored a hat trick in the match. So, 18-year-old phenom, and was the number 1 overall pick at the 2026 draft, NHL draft, and clearly showing why that was the case. So there you go, kids and cubs. Canada has one more match in pool play before we get to the playoffs, and I can't remember who it's against. For some reason, I'm thinking Finland, and I'm not confident in that. However, and of course, I'm trying to draw that up for you today so that I can mention that. So while I'm looking for that, there was also at this time of year the Spengler Cup, and it seems that Team Canada there, the Spengler Cup, unfortunately lost in the quarterfinal. So that's a bit of a shame. But oh well. There is no Team Canada match today, from what I can tell, to look out for. So Team Canada has a day off before their final match of the round robin. So I'm going to guess that the match is scheduled for tomorrow instead. And yes, indeed, 8:30 p.m. And I did properly remember that it is against Finland to lock up first place in their pool. So there you have it, kids and cubs. That's all I got for you today. Amour et bisous. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you again tomorrow for our show. And now, with a little magic and a little Christmas cheer, I have to go. So, au revoir, à bientôt.